I am getting ready to stitch out the chicken placemat, and I like on my tablet to have a picture of what it's going to look like. And not only that, but also I have the instructions right here as well. And that way I don't have to print them out. I mean, this thing's 27 pages and I don't want to print out 26, 27 pages. So I just put it on my tablet and bring it over here. Well, one of the things I have done is to hoop up my 6x10 hoop with no-show poly mesh. When you're brand new to this, I know everybody talks about centering in the hoop. In the hoop projects, that's really something you don't have to worry about because the designer or the digitizer has already decided where the design is going to go in the hoop. So all you need to do is lay out your no-show poly mesh, and this will not give any real weight to your project at all. Just lay it out on the table, put your hoop on top of it, and cut it just so you've got a little bit on the top and a little bit on the bottom, and you can get it hooped nice and tight regardless of the kind of hoop that you have. Hooping is really pretty simple. If you've watched any of my embroidery videos where I start at the beginning, I will show you how to do that. I've got a 90 weight pre-wound. I either use a 60 or a 90 usually. That's pretty lightweight pre-wound bobbin. I have a 7511 organ needle installed. That is the recommended needle for Brother machines. That's what they're timed with at the factory. If you are using a Brother machine or a Baby Lock and you are having thread shredding problems, check and see if you've got an organ needle in the machine. That is why it came with a pack of organ needles when you got it at the store. Okay, I have all of my pieces here all cut and ready to go. I have them laying out. Oh, I need to put my pink and I need to find some orange thread, but that'll come along. Okay, I'm gonna put this under here. I sent the design over wirelessly using Embroidery Essentials. So I'm gonna touch embroidery. And when you get to this home screen, there are designs that are internal to the machine when you bought it. You can do fonts, you can do flowered fonts, applique, you can do some frames. There's all kinds of different things here, Disney designs, but the pocket is the standard symbol for memory for Brother machines. So I'm going to touch the pocket, and then I want to get the design, and you can get it from either inside the machine, a USB. It will take a mouse. You can get it from a chip or those little radar waves wirelessly. So I'm going to touch wireless, and here is my chicken right here. And all I need to do is touch set. Now, even if you have a machine that is not with a big fancy screen like this, generally the steps are the same. You're going to pull up the design in your machine and you're going to set it. And in the Brother interface, it allows you to edit. You've got options for an edit button up here, and there's your design, and here are all of your threads and how long they're going to take and whatnot. Generally, when you're doing it in the hoop project, you really don't want to edit anything at all, because if you change one thing, it could kind of make it go wonky and things won't stitch properly. So I'm just going to touch the embroidery button, and it's going to go into embroidery mode from edit mode, and we are ready to go. What we're being told on this screen is some very good information. If we need a crosshair, we can touch the W. The W is the W foot, which is Brother's designation for the embroidery foot. That will put a crosshair down on your hoop. We don't need that. It's letting you know that you can use a very large hoop or the next size down. This is a 6x10 design, so I've put it in a 6x10 hoop. It's letting me know that the design is 7.64 by 6.04. It's going to be 793 stitches. It has 30 color changes, and it's going to take 33 minutes. That's a lot of color changes. So that's one of the reasons too. You would definitely want to do this on a multi-needle if you have one. And here I can display the design down on my hoop. I can scan all of that. I don't need to do any of that because this thing is ready to go. Down here on the bottom of the screen, we have return. We can turn off the cut, and when it's finished, that's how you would turn off the cutting the trim threads. And then there is a needle plus minus. If you ever run into trouble, your needle plus minus will allow you to go backwards some stitches so that you can fix whatever it is you need to. You can get back to the mistake, but we'll go over that if we have to. Hopefully we don't have to. I have a gray thread in the machine ready to go. I'm going to thread the needle by pressing the needle threader button. And I'm using the gray thread because the very first stitch that we're going to do as part of the design is the chicken wire in the background that you'll be able to see. So what I use up until that point really does not matter. You're also going to want to make sure you've got a good pair of curved embroidery scissors because we're going to need to trim around the stitches, especially if you did not cut your pieces with the scan and cut. Now, I will not be trimming around the batting because I have a Trimmer by George 2.0 ruler, and that ruler is perfect for these type of designs where you would normally trim your batting. So if you don't have one of those rulers, you're going to want to trim your batting right when it tells you to in the instructions. So I'm just going to go ahead and go. I'm going to press the button, and it's going to create the placement line for the batting. You want to put your batting down so it completely covers the placement line. And if you'd like, you can take some paper tape. This is from 3M. I have it in my Amazon store. You can just put this on here. That'll just keep it from moving around. You don't have to, but I just do that. If your batting has little pimples on it, pimples go face down so you can't see your pimples. That's what they say. And now we're going to do the tack down line for the batting. When I said we had 30 color changes, which is over here, I should have said 30 color stops because I haven't changed the thread color. It's 30 color stops. So if you do not have a Trimmer by George 2.0, you would want to now remove the hoop from the machine, and then you're going to take your curved embroidery scissors. I'm going to pull the tape off. You're going to want to take your curved embroidery scissors, and you want to hold up the edge of the batting, and you want to hold the scissors flat and trim them all the way around, trim around the outside here. If you have a Trimmer by George, you can just leave it right there. Now, in the Designs by JuJu designs, what they do is they consider the tack down line of the batting also the placement line for the background fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and put the background fabric down now, making sure that it completely covers the placement line that we just stitched, the tack down stitch for the batting. So they just killed two birds there, two chickens. And I'm going to stitch this down. I'm going to trim away something here in just a minute and show you exactly how to trim with the curved embroidery scissors if you've never done it before. In the hoop projects are a great way to start, especially with a placemat like this, a table runner, or a mug rug, because they're very easy to put together and everything's pretty straightforward. So now we're about to start the background quilting, which is that chicken wire pattern, and this is a really good way to minimize all of your thread changes, is run through your instructions and find out which color is the first one that you're really going to see, because these stitches right here will either be captured in the seam allowance or they'll be covered up by a binding or something like that. And so all of the stitches that we've done up until this point, you really don't have to worry about what color they are. It doesn't matter. But the first stitch that does matter is the background chicken wire. So that's the thread color that I have in there right now, is kind of a steel gray. And I'm just going to let it go and do its thing. It's going to take 3 minutes. All right, I need to create the placement line for the chicken. And to do that, I have to change my thread. When I change my thread, what I normally do is reach up pretty high and pull a little bit, and I will take this and drop it over the front of the machine. And then I'm gonna get the next thread, and it doesn't matter which one of these I put it through. And then I'm going to take the new thread and the old thread and put the ends together just like this. And then I just twist them so that they think they're one, kind of like that, and do a single knot and put both tails through the hole, through the loop, and pull them tight. And put that right there. And then I reach from in front of the needle, because you cannot pull the knot through the eye of the needle. So I reach in front of the needle and grab it and pull it through and bring it up and cut it off. So I really only have to run my threads through the thread guides one time manually, and the rest of the time I'm doing it like they do in industry. And I'm going to thread my needle. Now, what I'm about to do is not in the instructions. One of the things that you might notice when you do this, if you're using white for a white chicken and you put this down, you can really see the print behind the chicken pretty good. You can see through the fabric. Well, I want it to be a little bit more opaque than that. So what I'm going to do is I have a piece of cutaway, kind of a medium weight cutaway stabilizer. And I'm going to put this down first and then put my white fabric on top of that. I'm going to go ahead and run the placement line for the chicken. And I want to show you over here on the screen, you're going to get a preview. Usually most machines somewhere on the screen will give you a preview of what it is it's about to stitch. So that will kind of keep you in check of where exactly you are in the stitching process if you need to check it. So this is the part where I was talking about. I was going to show you how to trim if you have not pre-cut your pieces. If you don't have any of this cutaway stabilizer, you can certainly use an extra piece of white fabric. Put a couple of layers there so that everything, so you don't see through it quite as much. So now I'm going to put my cutaway down and make sure every bit is covered. And hopefully I've got a little extra left I can use for the eggs when it comes time for that. And I'm just going to go ahead and touch my button again. And this would be the tack down line for the white fabric. I wasn't clear earlier. If you do not have pre-cut pieces from a cutting machine, you would put your fabric on top of this as well and stitch it all down at once. I do have a pre-cut piece, which I'm going to iron on here in just a second. We're going to go back. I'm going to show you how to do that. So right now I need to trim away this cutaway. You want to make sure you have a firm surface to put your hoop on when you remove it from the machine. This is a Steady Betty pressing pad, and I'm just going to put it in my lap. When you trim, you want to hold the scissors flat. You don't want them to the side at all. And just pick up an edge and pull it up and trim with the flat part of the scissors. You want good points so you can get into those little bitty corners. And you just want to trim it away. I do not want to do this at all, but I didn't cut 2 pieces of fabric. You can cut this on the scan and cut. I've done that before too, where I'll cut a piece of fabric and I'll cut a piece of cutaway at the same time. Of course, it's 2 different cuts in 2 different places on the mat, but it can be done. All right, okay, ready to go back into the machine. So my easy press iron is heated up, and now I'm going to take this fabric and put it right on top. Make sure everything is covered nice. And I'm just going to press it straight down. Try not to swish, because if you swish, you can definitely move your piece around without trying. Now I want to stitch the tack down line one more time, just to make sure I don't have anything sticking way outside the tack down line that won't be covered by the final satin stitch. So to do that, I'm going to go over here to this needle plus minus. So here on the needle plus minus is where you can go backwards 1, 10, 100, or 1,000 stitches, or you can go forward 1, 10, 100, or 1,000. You can hit 0 and start all over. And up here I have a thread spool, and it's got an up and down arrow, and that allows me to go back and forth in the thread color stops. I can see on the preview right now here, this is for the placement line for the hat band. I don't want that. I want to go back 1 color stop, so I'm going to hit the up arrow. There's the tack down line for the chicken. I can see that. It's exactly what I want. The machine doesn't care. It's happy to help. Okay, I'm going to remove the hoop again, and I've got a couple of spots where I think I want to trim it just a little bit closer to the thread. I'll do little micro trimming like that all day long before I have to force myself to cut all that stuff out at one time. Okay, we have the placement line for the hat band, so I need a thread color change to pink. So again, to change the thread colors, I'm just going to tie them together and do a single loop. I'll show you, I have a thread tree behind my machine, and it's in my Amazon store, and I absolutely love this. Let me show it to you real quick. So you can see back here, all of my threads I need are set up on that tree, and it has a nice stand that goes up, and there's a little spring at the top, and that's where I put the thread tails to keep them out of the way. I love it. That way all of my threads are right there. I don't have to go chasing for them when I get ready to do my design, right in the middle of my design. Placement line for the hat band. It got a little loop there that didn't get pulled down in, so I'm just going to trim that. I have another little pad that I like for little bitty jobs. This is an ironing pad from Embroidery Garden, and I put a canvas on one side and some cute little pepper fabric on the other, and it has a ribbon you're supposed to throw on top of the hoop to remind you that it's there. And it has Insel Bright inside of it, and that way I can iron right at the machine. I don't have to take the hoop all the way out if I don't have to. And it's nice to have one of these little irons to get into these tight spots. And you definitely want to have your ribbons. I can't tell you the number of times I've stitched this into my project. And we're going to do the tack down line for the hat band. Now it's time for the placement line for the hat. And that needs to be a different thread color. I'm going to switch to orange. I'm going to put the tail of the pink back up into my spring. Placement line for the hat. I need to iron the hat into the placement line. There was a jump stitch that happened from the top of the hat down to the bottom of the brim, And I'm not going to get rid of it now because it's eventually going to be covered by thread. On the final, I don't know if it's going to be there or not, and if it is, I'm going to trim it away. So I'll show you that in a minute. She's getting cute. Okay, now it's time for the tack down for the hat. That looks really good. No additional trimming is required. All right, you always want to trim away jump threads. This machine will trim jump threads when the digitizer has told it to do so. So that didn't happen here. So I'm going to trim away the jump threads myself. And a jump thread is a big long thread that literally, like the name says, it jumps from point A to point B. It's not a series of stitches. Or it might be a jump, and it'll hop, depending on how the digitizer set it up. But you want to get rid of those because you don't want to have the satin stitching going over those, and then you won't be able to get them out very cleanly. Okay, I need to do a thread change. It is time for the placement line for the flower. I did a thread color change for the beak. I need a thread color change for the wattle. I'm going to trim away the jump thread. And now I need the top of her hat. I need a thread color change for that. I'm going to switch back to pink for the hat band. I need green for the leaves and the flower. I need yellow to go around the flower. All right, we're all done. There are a load of jump threads in here, so I'm going to take a couple of minutes and clean all those up right now. I had mentioned at the beginning of this video when I did not trim away the batting that I was going to use a trimmer by George 2.0, and that is this gizmo right here. And it's a nice big ruler, and it has a metal lip on it right here. And this is from hoopsisters.com, and I'll link to it below. And you can go and get you one, because if you are going to be making these types of designs where you have to put your tiles together, then, or you know, any of these extra pieces together, you're definitely going to want to get one of these. It just makes your life so much easier. The beauty of this is you will fold back your fabric, okay? And you take the trimmer by George and you push this edge right up against the folded fabric, and you fold it down like this, and then you trim. Okay, so you can take it like this, pick this up a little bit to separate the batting and the top, pull it over and like this. Oh, I'm using the wrong rotary cutter. They recommend you use the big 60 degree. Duh, it worked. I forgot about that. This is just so much easier than trimming away the batting in the hoop. You don't have to do this, but it's great to do it like this. Okay, now the instructions tell you to trim around the block 1/2 inch away from the outer edge. And so if you look at all of the printing on the trimmer by George, it's kind of on the back side. your numbers are straight up, and it is a ruler. So you only need this one device in order to be able to trim up your block completely. And I'm going to trim 1/2 inch away from the outer seam line as it says in the instructions. It has all the way out to like 6.5. So this is just the handiest thing. I discovered these. My viewers told me about this, how great it was when I was doing a Kimberbell. And Kimberbell quilts have tons of blocks that have that use this method, and this just makes life so much easier. Okay, so here's the block. It's completely trimmed to 1/2 inch all the way around, and then if you look at the back, you can see the batting is trimmed directly next to the stitches. This one's a little bigger, but that's because I used the wrong rotary cutter, I think. Yeah, I used the wrong rotary cutter on that. This was the edge. Don't use the wrong one again, Becky. There, that's it. So here's the front, trimmed perfectly 1/2 inch away from the outer stitching line, and here's the back. See that? And look how close the Trimmer by George 2.0 got to that stitch line and did not cut over it. It looks great. This is a really, really great tool to have in your arsenal if you are an embroiderer and you're making these kinds of projects. It's the Trimmer by George 2.0 from hoopsisters.com. There's hoopsisters.com right there. Okay. All right. I'm going to make the next one in the multi-needle.